of this church. For those of you unfamiliar with the Episcopal Church, what we like to do is use names and words that no one understands. But we want to welcome you here today. I told Stuart earlier when we were setting up, I would like for this to be the Institute for Spirituality and Health's auditorium. So I want you all to feel like this is your home, and I want you to come back again and again and again and again, especially when there's not a crane in the middle of our parking lot and you don't have to dodge traffic to get across. I'll call on Larry Payne to come back up here and just enjoy your day. Larry, you're back to you, wherever you are.
I'm going to just take a little deviation from the program, and I'm not going to try to get into my piece right now, but I want to introduce just a couple of people. Just like the crane was supposed to be here 4 weeks ago during spring break, Bishop Dixon was going to be with us all day. Not only does he have one funeral now, he has two funerals he has to leave and go to, so I just want him to say hello to us. Bishop James Dixon, Community of Faith, just come up, say hello, and he's got to literally go. So,
good morning. Let me say thank you. First of all, it's a joy to be here, and thank you, Larry, for even allowing me to say hello. I've got to rush to two funerals today, and so pray for me with that. I simply want to commend Larry and all who are a part of making this moment happen. Jesus, the scripture says, Matthew chapter 9:36, and seeing the multitudes, he was moved with compassion. He was moved with compassion because he saw them as sheep having no shepherds. And later he told his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. I simply want to thank you for being a part of the few laborers who understands that the multitude, the crowd, is in need of shepherds. It is really not the fault of the shepherdless sheep. It's the fault of the shepherds who are not touching sheep, and real shepherds smell just like sheep. God bless you. Have a great day, and I look forward to being a part of what God is doing in the future. Thank you so much. Thank you, Larry.
I think needs a little context on its own so everybody can be clear. And I'm going to keep my remarks very brief because I want to get to the heart of the matter,
which is why we're all here today. First of all, I hope you've had an opportunity to say hello to everyone and greet everyone, because that's
part of being servant leaders. There's no such thing as an anonymous human being among servant leaders. In fact, the classic definition is a stranger is only a friend I have not met yet. So really take the opportunity to look around this room. There's a great cross-section of Houstonians here, a great cross-section of humanity around the concept of human beings, so please get to know each other. I will introduce a little later some of the groups that are here. We have students, we have the National NHPO, the National Hispanic Leadership Organization, the Leadership Institute, with all the Leadership Institute current class members and graduates raised. We have students here, we have a whole group of people working to it. So let me see if I can do this very quickly and do it justice from this time frame that we have. So as we gather today to share our stories along life's journey, let us rejoice together in the ethic of responsibility and respect. The ethic of responsibility and respect for each other's journey and stories, and seek to benefit from the rich variety among us present in this room today. This is why it is absolutely essential to create opportunities for human beings to listen to each other from and with the heart, mind, and spirit of a servant leader. Archbishop Desmond Tutu said the following: "Now and again, we catch a glimpse of the better thing when the world is galvanized by a spirit of compassion, humanity, and an amazing outpouring of generosity. When for a little while we are bound together by bonds of a caring humanity." If we could just keep that going and have that understanding to and for each other at all times. That whole idea of whom and the city of Houston becoming the shining star on the hill, the beloved community that's been talked about for years. Dr. Klineberg says we have a shot at it better than almost any urban major city in the United States to be that example, to be that role model. So we're going to continue to do that. In the spirit of the 60th anniversary of the Institute for Spirituality and Health, in the spirit of the 75th anniversary of St. Mark's, in the spirit of all that has come before. I'm looking at Judy Craven sitting in the audience and all the work that she did when she was at United Way. all those spirits, we need to revive those spirits once again. So servant leadership. The title of the book is The Heart of Houston, with the U.S. in the middle of Houston, which is us. The challenge is getting to us. How do we get to us? I want to call your attention to a little video produced by the students at Fur High School called The Other Side of Town. If you have not seen The Other Side of Town, you need to pull it up on, I'm not the tech person, what is that thing called? Vimeo? Vimeo, thank you very much. I told you I'm not. So you can find it on there. It tells the story of the Tale of Two Cities. It is the most telling 15-minute little documentary that the students put together about their reality, their side of town. And in the background is the shadow of the skyline of downtown Houston. Because Houston does have the Tale of Two Cities. We have great everything, but we also have disparities and inequalities. We have poverty. We have all those things. Many of you in this room have labored in this vineyard upstream and downstream. Many of you have done and continue to do the great social charity and social service. Many of you are social justice advocates. It's never been either or, it's both and. We need both and. But it's a question today in 2015, in the spirit of humanity and caring for human beings, maybe, just maybe, it's time to focus on going upstream and finding out once and for all why the bodies are being placed in the river and float downstream. We've been doing downstream for so long. Maybe it's time to start asking the hard, critical questions and having critical conversations about the upstream discussion. So we hope to look at some of those issues under the banner of servant leadership today. Servant leadership happens in all of our lives, in all three spheres of domains of our lives, our personal, professional, and public lives. Servant leadership is here to explore the question of how we as human beings in a society, how do we come together in looking at the connections, the alignment, the congruencies, the interconnectedness, interrelatedness, interdependency of who we are as a people. Looking at all those issues that bind us together around the issue of respect. It really always ends up being about relationships built on mutual trust and respect. Nothing happens without trust, and nothing happens without respect. And so those two things we know from a servant leadership perspective: give human beings respect before they earn it. That's one of the main things about servant leadership. Give human beings respect before they earn it. Help everyone frame and reframe. Frame and reframe. The art of reframing becomes very important in this. I was at a conference the other day, and they kept talking about the URMs. The URMs. And then I finally asked somebody, what's a URM? The underrepresented minorities. And then I said, you're talking about Houston, Texas? There's no such thing as underrepresented minorities. It's got to be underrepresented majorities. Because that's what it is in Steve Klineberg, Houston. The new minority is the majority is the minority. So we got to really begin to look at how we reframe and how we ask these questions. Here's what I know that you know. Going back to those teachers that left that remarkable impression on us on our lives, those teachers' names who we can still name today. Nothing happens until there is no significant learning happens without significant relationships. No significant learning happens without significant relationships. It has always been about relationships. And I know from the work that I've done before, I even knew about Robert K. Greenleaf, who's the father of the term servant leadership, who was a retired AT&T executive, who in 1970 wrote the book, The Servant as Leader. And I was introduced to it in 1971 by my Latin professor, Father Emser, at the University of St. Thomas. And then when he told me about servant leadership and told me about Robert Greenleaf, I said, well, all the people in my life, all the adults in my life that have been growing up were servant leaders. We didn't call them that. What they did was gave unconditional love. That's what made them a servant leader. And so the term and the phrase as we go forward, the servant leader, and this is what Greenleaf says about being a servant leader. One serves the other, and without one, the other cannot exist. One serves the other, and without one, the other cannot exist. Let your life speak for itself through its actions and behaviors. It is always important about focusing on the human being and not the I and me, but the we and us. He says this about servant leadership. Servant leaders and a servant leadership is the ability to articulate a goal in such a way that allow others sharing in the vision and are motivated to pursue it, share with the other human beings, and be fundamental servant leaders themselves. In Greenleaf's own words, he says this: why would anyone accept leadership of another except that the other sees more clearly where it is best to go and see that that person cares about them. We've heard that famed phrase before. Don't tell me how much you care. Don't tell me how much you love me. Just show it. In fact, words are necessary. It is about action and behaviors. It is not about the word. Because if words would have done it by now, it surely would have been done. So the challenge we have is actions and behaviors. He goes on to say, there is an urgent need for leadership by strong ethical persons, those who by their nature are disposed to be servants in the sense of helping others to become healthier mentally, physically, socially, economically, and politically, who become wiser, freer, and more autonomous, and more likely themselves to be servants, and who therefore are known to help other people. The 10 characteristics of a true servant leader that has always been there are listening, healing, persuasion, foresight, commitment to the growth of other human beings, empathy, awareness, conceptualization, stewardship, and building community. We have put together a list of servant leaders to speak to you this morning, and I realized in putting the book together when I got the 20 wonderful people who are co-authors and who have contributors, those 20 among the other 20s that I could have kept going and going, who I could have asked to be part of that. Many of you in this room are true servant leaders. So to get a servant leading community together is an interesting prospect to have all in the same room this morning so we can all grow and learn from each other. I'll come back at the end and try to pull some of this together, but for now I'm going to stop, get us back to our program, and just follow the way it is. I see that some of the speakers are here, some are on their way, so we may kind of change the schedule around a little bit, depending on who's here at the time they are supposed to come to the microphone. But for now, without further ado, and he always gets on me, but I always say anything, I want to bring up the conscience of Houston, Texas. I want to bring up the person who's been telling us, and now it's here, the reality of Houston, Texas in 2015 and beyond, who has done not only the Houston Annual Survey, but has taken the Houston Annual Survey and made it live and made it come to life, and who we are as Houstonians in this changing demographic society, and what does that mean to us as human beings in how we relate and treat other human beings. Without further ado, Dr. Stephen Klein.
Hello? Okay. Is it on again? It is on, okay. So just a quick reminder, right? I mean, if there's ever been a city that can embrace servant leadership, that needs servant leadership, that is in the midst of fundamental transformation, I think this is the most interesting and the most consequential city in America. This is where the American future across the board is going to be taking place. And so it's, and who knew? I mean, what an incredible privilege for me just to have been doing these studies. It never occurred to me that Houston would be as interesting a place as it turned out to be. Let me remind us of the three great transformations and central challenges that we face. It's a new economy, it's a demographic revolution, and suddenly quality of place issues have become central to Houston's future. New economy. This is the 30 years after World War II. The rising tide lifted all boats. We emerged out of that war the sole economic power on the planet. The average American man doubled his income in real terms between 1950 and 1970. The big employers in Houston in the 1970s was Hughes Tool Company, Cameron Iron Works, good blue-collar jobs. 38% of the jobs in America were union jobs. The average American man doubled his income in real terms across the board between 1950 and 1970. And between 1946 and 1964, we celebrated the stay-at-home housewife mother in suburbia. The average American woman gave birth to 3.6 children on average. And the baby boom was launched upon the land. 76 million babies born in that incredible period from 1946 and 1964, preceded and followed by baby bust generations. So for 60 years, it's been this bulge going through the system. Demographers talk about like a pig being swallowed by a python. Not very healthy either for the pig or the python. The leading edge of those 76 million overwhelmingly Anglo babies turned 69 this year. And we're going to watch a literal doubling of the number of Americans over the age of 65 in the next 25 years. Every day between now and 2030, 10,000 Anglo-Americans will turn 65. And by 2030, the youngest of those 76 million will have turned 65, heading off into the sunset gradually, leaving behind a very different America. The epic transition of our times is this shift from this Anglo baby boom generation, leaving a different America in the 21st century. Here's one of the ways in which it's different. This is the last 30 years of that period, when virtually all the benefits of economic growth have gone to the richest 5%, most of that to the richest 1%. The poorest 20% of American families that had doubled their incomes in the 30 years after World War II are actually making less money today, more poor today than they were 30 years ago. The bottom 60% of American families have basically stagnated and gone down in the last 30 years, and all the benefits have gone to the richest 5%, most of that to the richest 1%. What happened? Two big things happened. One was globalization. Fareed Zakaria said it best, what we're dealing with today is not the decline of the West, but the rise of the rest. We are in a worldwide global economic system. Companies can produce goods anywhere, sell them everywhere. If you're doing a job that I can train a third world worker to do, and I pay that third world worker $10 a day to do that job, I'm not going to pay you $10 an hour. And if you are doing a job that I can program a computer to do, I'm going to replace your job with an intelligent machine. We are in a new world where education, always a nice thing to have, has become absolutely essential to a person's ability to earn enough money to support a family. So theme number one is growing inequalities across America, particularly clear in Houston, predicated above all else on access to quality education. Very, very quickly here, we ask people, in today's economy, is it necessary to get an education beyond high school? Are there many ways to succeed with no more than a high school diploma? The most important institution of higher education, I tell people, is not Rice University anymore. It's the community college system. Force of all Houstonians recognize now you've got to get education beyond high school to get a decent job in the 21st century economy. I fight a losing battle with people who say if only those Latinos and African Americans understood the importance of education the way the Asians and the Anglos do, there would be no problem. Everyone would get that education. So you break it down by ethnicity, and here's what you find. African Americans and Latinos, even more than Asians and more than Anglos, recognize you've got to get education beyond high school. If they're not getting that education, it is demonstrably not because they don't recognize its importance and value the education, it's because of poverty. It's because of the concentrated poverty that is happening across America, and particularly clearly in Houston, where overwhelmingly African American Latino kids go to overcrowded, underfunded inner city schools without any of the kinds of resources that are so critical for success in education and acquiring the skills that are needed. So theme number one, growing inequalities, predicated on education. Theme number two, this remarkable demographic transformation. You've all seen this. This is the number of immigrants coming to America. So the essential story, there's a number of immigrants coming in each of the decades from the 1820s to 2000s. The essential story is that between 1492 and 1965, 82% of all the human beings on the face of this planet who came to American shores between 1492 and 1965 came from Europe. Another 12% were Africans brought here as slaves to serve the Europeans. Handful of Chinese and Japanese working as farmers and laborers in California and Hawaii. This nation was an amalgam of European nationalities. We were operating with an effort to restrict immigration only to Northern Europeans. Immigration plummeted, and then the law was changed, and suddenly we become a nation of immigrants again, and 88% of all the new immigration in the last 30 years is coming from Asia, Latin America, Africa, and the Caribbean. And the United States, that throughout all of our history had been an amalgam of European nationalities, is rapidly becoming a microcosm of the world. The first nation in history that can say we are a free people and we come from everywhere. And it's a remarkable change happening all around the country, but a network-driven Los Angeles and New York are the two great immigration capitals, followed by Chicago, Miami, San Francisco, Houston, followed right after Houston by San Diego, Washington, D.C., Dallas, Boston, Atlanta, spreading to every city and town across America. No city has been transformed as fully, as completely, as suddenly, as irreversibly as Houston, Texas. This city, throughout all of our history, was a biracial southern city, dominated and controlled in an automatic, taken-for-granted way by white men. And in the space of the last 30 years has become the single most ethnically diverse major metropolitan area in the country. Here are the census figures for the 3 decades during the oil boom years. There was our biracial world in 1960. There was There's 74% of us were Anglos, 20% African Americans, just 6% Hispanics, that's in 1/2 of 1% were Asians. During the oil boom years of the 60s and 70s, Anglos were pouring into Houston. By 1980, Houston became the 4th largest city in America, still an overwhelmingly Anglo city. Here's the last 3 decades. Anglo population has dropped. African American population has kept pace with the overall population of the county as a whole, and then surging populations of Latinos and Asians. 2 big things to say here. Number 1, had Houston not been one of the great magnets for the new immigration of the last 30 years, this city would have lost population. Houston would have had the same fate as other major American cities across the country that are losing their status as major cities. Philadelphia, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Detroit, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Buffalo. Instead, Houston is one of the most vibrant, rapidly growing cities in America, purely because of the tremendous energy, vitality, commitment, hard work of immigrants pouring into this city from Asia, Latin America, Africa, and the Caribbean. No city has benefited more from immigration than Houston, Texas. And it's ironic, but not surprising, I guess, to see anti-immigrant attitudes in the city when you think of how different the story of Houston would have been. Had we been like Philadelphia in 1980, we were the same size, and for one reason or another, Philadelphia never grew, and Houston became one of the great magnets for the new growth of the last 30 years. And the other key point is that Houston has a more even distribution among the 4 great communities of America than any of the other multi-ethnic melting pot cities. There are very few Asians in Miami. There are very few Hispanics in San Francisco. There are very few African Americans in Los Angeles. This is where the 4 communities meet in greater balance, greater equality, all of us minorities, all of us called on to build something new under the sun that has never been built before in all of human history. A truly successful, inclusive, equitable, multi-ethnic society that will be Houston and Texas and America in the 21st century. And it's not just numbers, it's also ages. So here is here's a quick, in blue are all the census tracts in 1980 that were majority Anglo. In red are the census tracts majority African American. In what is that color? Orange. It's a segundo body all on the ship channel. It was where majority were Latinos. And this is 1980. This is the census of 1990, I think. Where do I point? Okay, here's a census of 2000, and here it is in 2010. Isn't that incredible? I tell people, you know, this, without anyone intending this, no one consulted with me before all these people came. Houston finds itself, without anyone having planned it, to be at the forefront of the demographic transformation that is occurring across all of America. And it's not just numbers, it's also ages. So here I've got babies on the left and old folks on the right. I've got 12 different age categories. And here for the census of 2012 is where the Anglos are, I think. There you go. Welcome to the baby boom. It's not until you reach people in Harris County, Texas today who are over the age of 63 that a majority of folks are still Anglos. At each younger age group, the percentage of Anglos plummets, percentage of African Americans, Asians, and above all Latinos surges. And of everybody under the age, or here's where everybody else is in Harris County today. And of everybody then in all of Harris County under the age of 20, 19 years old or younger, of everybody age 19 and younger, 51% are Latinos, 19% are African American, 9% are Asian, 22% are Anglos. 70% of everybody under 20 is African American and Latino. The 2 groups overwhelmingly the most likely to be living in poverty. We know what poverty does to your ability to succeed in the public schools. It is a safe statement to make that if Houston's African American, Latino young people are unprepared to succeed in the global knowledge economy of the 21st century, it is hard to envision a prosperous future for Houston. That is who we are and will be as the 21st century unfolds. And the other key point is that this is a done deal. I tell people, close the borders, build your fence, close off America. Not another immigrant ever again is going to be allowed to come to these shores. 60-year-old Anglos are not going to be making a whole lot more babies. I tell people, we'll do the best we can. We'll work. So you can go to the bank on this. No force in the world is going to stop Houston or Texas or America from becoming more African American, more Asian, more Latino, and less Anglo as the 21st century unfolds. Nothing in the world can stop that. So the only question our generation has been given is, okay, how do we make this work? How do we ensure that this ethnic diversity becomes a tremendous asset that it can be for the city and doesn't end up tearing us apart and becoming a major liability? Much depends on the leadership and commitments of the people here today, recognizing this remarkable moment of transition. So this is Houston, and one other quick thing I want to show. This is the United States today. Same kind of pattern. It is overwhelmingly still an Anglo country, but the same pattern is there. Older folks are disproportionately Anglo, younger folks disproportionately non-Anglo. Census told us one year after they published this chart that, okay, as of now, everybody across all of America who is under the age of 6, the majority across America are now African Americans, Latinos, and Asians. And then the census says, we can tell you what America will look like in 2050. Assume no more immigration. Immigration ends, just simply the actuarial tables. Here's their picture of the United States in 2050. That's basically Houston today. So it really is fair to say how Houston navigates this transition will have enormous significance, not just for the Houston future, but for the American future. By 2045 to 2050, all of America will look like Houston. How we navigate that transition will shape and define the kind of America that we will build together in the 21st century. And I think I want to zoom, I think it's still working. The other key point is quality of life. This city never paid much attention to who cares if it smells, so what if it's ugly? This is a place where the jobs are, come on down. Now recognizing that if Houston's going to make it, we have to turn ourselves into a destination of choice, a place where people who can live anywhere will say, I want to live in Houston, Texas. And it's been fascinating to see that, and servant leadership plays a big role here too, I think. I think one of the transformative events in Houston, 50 years from now, people will look back on 2012 in Houston and say, wow, that was the year when the citizens of Houston voted by 69% to tear down the concrete along all 10 of those bayous and turn them into linear parks. And that whole Bayou Greenway initiative is something that would have been inconceivable for 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and this is a manifestation of the building of a Houston that is going to be more beautiful, more green, more attractive in the 21st century than it was in the 20th century. And I need to stop here because I could keep going. Of course, it's 34 years, but education, building this remarkable new multi-ethnic world, and turning Houston as we accommodate another 1 million people, we think, coming into Harris County in the next 20 years. Can we build a city that will be more beautiful, more green, more healthy, more attractive, with another 1 million people here, only if we figure out a way collectively to guide the growth and to respond to the new opportunities that Houston represents. So it's, if there's ever been a city where servant leadership was needed or where the evidence of its effectiveness is already present, it's this city. If there's any city more significant and important than Houston, I don't know what it is. And I do think, as Larry said, that if we can't do it, if we can't build this new America, it's very hard to believe that Los Angeles or Chicago or Miami or New York is going to be in a better position. We are the folks who can build the America of the 21st century. Thank you all so much. Delighted to be here and look forward to sharing all of your insights and thoughts. Thank you.